going to go over, we've got our Dean of Students, Dr. Christy Gover, joining us. We're going to hear from campus security as well as residential life. And we've got our directors of both of those areas as well, Kevin Bennett over campus security and Jenny Boyer over residential life. And so we're going to kick it off with Dr. Gover to give us an overview of student affairs.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it, and welcome everyone. It's great to see you again. I'm Christy Gover. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. And I'm going to take some time today just to go over a brief overview of student affairs and the services and support that we offer to students. I'll also talk briefly about our code of conduct as well as sexual misconduct, and offer a little bit of advice and care to you as family members. And I've worked here at Jacksonville University for about 18 years and worked at the University of South Carolina and the University of Louisville prior to. So I saw a Wofford person come into the chat a minute ago. So glad to have you all here today, and we can go ahead and go to the next slide and I'll just jump right in. These are the departments that are represented inside the Division of Student Affairs, and I like to say that we really support all of the learning that takes place outside the classroom, and that's captured in a lot of these different services. And I partner closely with our athletics department, but they are an NCAA Division I athletics department, and so they are freestanding. So we essentially take care of everything outside of the classroom with the exception of athletics. We have a student counseling center who Dr. Kristen Alberts is doing a session later on in the orientation schedule, so you'll have an opportunity to learn about all the services they offer. Our student engagement and leadership office, which Kristen Smithson is in, and they coordinate our new student orientation program, as well as our engagement opportunities for students to get involved. Obviously, the Dean of Students office here, and our Dean of Students office oversees a number of different areas, but most notably our student conduct system and our Title IX and general student support for students, our care team, and taking care of our students in that way. We do have a large number of international students on our campus. We have about 300 international students, which is good for a school our size, and our International Student Support Office is here as well. Our Disability Support Service office, so if your student had an IEP or accommodations in high school, you're going to want to get connected with our Disability Support Services office to coordinate that support at the collegiate level. And it looks a little different than the high school level, but we do offer support for our students who have documented disabilities. This office will also support students in this COVID era where if a student tests positive for COVID and has to be isolated, or if they have to be quarantined, the Disability Support Services Office will help coordinate their academic accommodations during that time as well. Our Office of Student Inclusion focuses on our minority student programming and supporting our minority student organizations, as well as educational components across the campus community, including our faculty and staff, working closely with faculty and staff. The Military and Veteran Resource Center. Of course, we have intramurals, and then we're going to talk a lot more about campus security and residential life today. And we also have varsity athletics in our division. So if you have a student who's coming in on the varsity sailing team, the sailing coach is just down the hall from me, as well as our clay shooting team. So a lot of opportunities to get involved here at JU. And as I've mentioned in some previous sessions that I've been in with many of you, we are looking at how we do things differently, and so that we can do them safely during this season of COVID. Wellness and safety is really a common theme for us. And we had our panel discussion about COVID-19. I understand there are probably some unanswered questions there, and this will be a great environment to ask those questions at the end of our presentations if you have additional questions about how we will work with students who may test positive or may need to be quarantined. Our office, in conjunction with the Campus Security Office, leads our emergency preparedness team. In the event that we have a hurricane, and we've already started having conversations about what it might look like if we have a hurricane and COVID all at the same time, which is certainly a possibility. And I feel like we're well prepared. Unfortunately, we've had some experience with hurricanes and know what we need to do to support our students. We are able to mostly house our students on campus during hurricanes because of the location of our campus, but during if we have one this fall when we're trying to de-densify the campus because of COVID, we will probably ask more students to voluntarily evacuate than we have in the past, but we can go into more detail if that presents itself. We also have our Green Dot Bystander Intervention Program, which is a program that focuses on raising awareness and teaching students how to intervene in high-risk situations, and whether that is alcohol-related situation, a drug-related situation, or a relationship violence situation. And it's a national program that's represented on a lot of college campuses, and we're really fortunate that we have that program here on our campus to help train our students and teach them the skills that they need to intervene in appropriate times for their peers. We heard from Elaine Bourne already about our Student Health Center. We also take our education of our students very seriously as it relates to alcohol, drugs, and sexual misconduct. And Third Millennium is the platform we use. We ask that all incoming students, first-time freshmen, are required to participate in one of our Third Millennium modules, and that includes Consent and Respect, which touches on sexual misconduct, and also an alcohol and drug module that raises awareness about alcohol and drug use. So if your student has said something to you about being required to participate in that module, it is true. We do ask them to do that, and that's just one of our ways of educating them. We have a Students of Concern team, a behavioral intervention team that we work with our partners across campus to identify students who may be struggling, whether it's for academic reasons or social reasons or family reasons, and we work to connect those students with the most appropriate resources on our campus. We also have a text messaging system. I think that's pretty standard on college campuses now these days, but if we need to communicate with students in a mass texting approach, we can do that with our text messaging system. In the past, I bet if I went back and looked at my phone, the last time I communicated with students, it was about inclement weather in the state of Florida with a thunderstorm rolling through or the hurricane. And so we just ask that students opt in to that text messaging system by making sure that their emergency contact information is up to date. And it is actually not an opt-in. They're automatically enrolled in that text messaging system. And we typically reserve that for only emergency reasons. And we're not going to announce that we have a big basketball game tonight through that text messaging system. We're going to reserve that for emergency communication modes. And then I'm sure Kevin Bennett will touch on the JU Mobile Safety app, which is also a great way for us to communicate with our students and for our families to know what safety features we have available. There's a reporting mechanism through that as well. And we can go ahead and, yeah, there we go. Our code of conduct is focused on respect, and Davina Hamilton, who's the Associate Dean of Students, will go into great detail with your students, but I do think it's helpful for you as family members to know what our expectations are of students. We focus a great deal of attention on developing that sense of community and really understanding what it means to be part of that community and how you can positively contribute to that. And the culture of respect is a really strong piece of our code of conduct. Of course, we also have our long list of do's and don'ts like any college campus related to alcohol and drug use. But I want to mention that we have a medical amnesty policy. So if any of our students are ever involved in a situation where they think a friend may need medical attention, we have a medical amnesty policy that allows them to call and report that and seek help. So they could call campus security, they could call residential life and get the help and support they need so that their friend will be treated in the way that they need to be treated if they've consumed too much alcohol or if they've overdosed on drugs. And that will be without disciplinary repercussions to the students. And the last thing we want to do is to discourage a student from reporting or saving a friend's life if they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble. Now, I will also say that in relation to our alcohol and drug policy, we take both an educational approach and a punitive approach. And I don't make any bones about that when I'm talking to the parents. I just think it's really helpful for you to know that that's our approach. And we'll sit down and have a conversation with your student, and then we will also There is a fine associated with an alcohol or a drug policy violation, and that increases as if they get multiple policy violations. And those fines help pay for our educational modules. So there's also an educational module that we'll ask them to participate in as well. So I think it's important for you to know that that is all on our website at ju.edu/green pages if you want to learn a little bit more about our alcohol and drug policies on campus, and if you want to learn more about our code of conduct in general. As the Dean of Students, I do think it's healthy for me to touch on sexual misconduct in Title IX. And I'm not going to go into great detail here. We will spend a good bit of time with your students talking about this, but know that we have educational programs on campus between One Love, Campus Clarity, and Green Dot. We also work with students who may need an accommodation if they're involved in an incident of sexual misconduct. That could mean that maybe they're in the same class as the person that they're concerned about, and we may be able to switch their classes around so that they're not in the same class as that person. If they live in the same residence hall, switch their residence hall so that they don't have to worry about running into that person on campus. And of course, depending on the nature of the violation, the possible outcomes for that could range anywhere from a no contact order with someone to a dismissal from the university. And those are all, of course, case by case incidents that we work with our students on, and of course we have a hearing process that students go through so that we're able to properly investigate whatever may be reported to us. And we can go on to advice and care. I'm sure that Jenny Boyer, Director of Residential Life, will talk about roommate relationships. My advice to you as the families is to encourage your student to come into this with an open mind. I would imagine that most students who are entering college today probably grew up with their own room, some maybe their own bathroom, maybe they shared a bathroom with a sibling, maybe they shared a bedroom with a sibling, but a lot of our students come to campus, and this is the first time in a really long time that they've actually shared a living space with another person. And it just takes some time, I think, to adapt. Change, we know one thing about change, and that's that it can be stressful. And so just giving them the time and space to really adapt and understand and communicate with their roommate. And Jenny has a lot of resources in place to help facilitate that communication. But it is also a really important part of the college experience and the growth and learning that takes place in college, and something that we really work to help students appreciate and enjoy and make the most of, and hopefully make some lifelong friendships there. Parental access to records. We in Student Affairs have a bit more freedom to communicate with parents than other offices do. So you're going to want to make sure that you talk with your student about those expectations. If you want access to your student's financial records and academic records, they have to complete a FERPA form so that you can have access to that. The registrar's office has those forms available. I believe they're available online, and your student has to be the one to initiate that, but they can give you access to those records. As far as discipline records go, if your student is involved in 2 alcohol policy violations, we will notify their emergency contact on that second alcohol policy violation, because we believe that we have to partner together if we want to change behavior. And even if it's less about behavior change and just about making sure that you know what's going on, I think that it's a good idea for us to partner with parents here. Frequency of communication. There's some research out there that suggests our students are in constant contact with their parents. And when I say constant contact, more than 3 times per day. And that may be what your family looks like. It may not be what your family looks like, and that's okay. We have found that our students stay in pretty regular contact because of just the accessibility of communication, but we encourage you to also set some boundaries there. And that I know as a parent myself that I always feel great when my son texts me or my daughter texts me, but you also want to make sure that they are appropriately engaging on campus and making those connections and seeking out the resources and support independently, and making the most of the opportunity to really grow and develop in what I like to describe as the comforting walls of this educational environment. And that goes for returning home and visiting as well. Changing majors, it's certainly a possibility that your student's going to come in and really feel very strongly about being that engineering major, and then ultimately end up changing their major to something else. And so just supporting them in the way that is helpful in their growth and development during this time. And I believe that's all for me. So I am happy to turn it over to Kevin Bennett, who is our Director of Campus Security. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Just want to take a few minutes to go through some things to cover when it deals with the campus safety and security of the campus, because I know that's always going to be one of the most important things that as parents, you're sending your students off to school and you want to make sure how safe the campus is, how safe is everything. So a lot of things that I'm going to cover is just going to show you how we collectively as a university and as a department keep pushing the culture of making sure that our campus is safe, and we depend strongly on your students as well as everybody, faculty, staff, and students, as well as our department, to keep our campus safe. So if you look at the first slide, you're looking at the mission right now. It's letting you know, as far as we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got 3 shifts. Along with those 3 shifts, as with our department, we partner with our local law enforcement, which is also provides an additional form of patrolling on our campus. So you have us as in a non-sworn capacity, as well as you have our local law enforcement, which is the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, which operates in the form of sworn law enforcement. And especially touching on what you say about our safe campus, but let them want to know, of course, we are not immune to different types of crime, but the most things that we always let the students know and everyone know, most crimes are preventable. And a lot of the crimes that we talk about, they're called what we consider is, in order for crime to occur, there's 3 things that must occur, and that is opportunity, skill, and desire. But as long as we minimize and we keep the opportunities away, that's when crimes are pretty much preventable, as long as we remove what we call the opportunities. And especially when we talk about the fact that each individual must accept the responsibility for his or her personal safety and security on the properties. And one of the things, the bullet points that I always emphasize, especially on the bottom, is choices have consequences. Those are one of the things that, especially as Dr. Gover has already alluded to earlier, we're just talking about some of the things that, of course, when you go through the process of the different types of fines and things, of course, with sanctions. But one of the things that we always let people know is about when we're making good choices, those consequences are going to always be good, consequences versus bad, because of the thing is, when we go through all of the things we do on campus, we're making those smart decisions and we're making those good, valuable choices, whether I should be, especially if I'm under the age of 21, of course, I shouldn't be drinking, or simple things along as, okay, if this is occurring, I should get people involved. So as long as we are making good, great choices, those consequences, as just as what we'll tell everyone, those things will always stay to a minimum, and we want to make sure that each student is always aware of make great choices, and those consequences will always stay where we want them to stay, and that is in a good, safe, sound place. And of course, a lot of the things, as far as you look at the slide, the to-do list for the students, a couple of these things I'm going to touch on that's going to be very important, is mainly because once they come in, they're going to obtain their JU Dolphin ID card. That ID card acts and works as almost, like I said, like a credit card, because it has all their money, it has the meals, it has all of the ways that they access in and out of their residential halls. So it is very important that they make sure they hold on to these ID cards, and they treat them as, like I say, definitely with almost like I say, it's money, it's access to their places, it's access to their meals. But just in case, if for whatever reason, if they ever lose a card or they damage a card, they can come back, they can get a replacement, and there is a fee attached to that. But the most important thing is, if they ever lose it, similar to just like a credit card, debit card, deactivate it immediately, as fast as possible, by contacting our office. And of course, coming up on some of the slides, I'm going to make sure that they will be able to have that phone number, so they will be able to lock it into their cell phone and use it as what we consider like ICE, just in case of emergency, to always have our phone number already on standby. And as well as all of the information, if you see the JU alert notification system, great to make sure all of the information is current and up to date, is what Dr. Gover had already alluded to. She talked about whenever there's an emergency situation that we need everyone's attention immediately, that's the information that we're going to flush out to that number. So if that information is correct, that student, that individual is going to get that information in a timely manner, whether it be text, whether it be email, whether it be phone call. That's one of the ways that we communicate emergency situations. especially whether it be, like I say, weather, whether it be any types of situations on campus that requires immediate attention. As well as we always want to make sure that the students are aware of the personal escorts on campus that we provide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't matter the day or the night. We want them to always, and we always encourage them to make sure that, again, they have our number, and if they ever need an escort anywhere around the campus, we want to make sure that they give us a call. We have several emergency call boxes throughout the campus, just in case if phones or batteries are dead or whatever, they still have the ability to contact us. And as well, we have personal safety workshops that we always want them to become engaged and get involved in. We always encourage them, because when it comes to safety and security, it's an overall entire community task that everyone has to be involved. And we definitely encourage them, when they see those emails, when they get the information, we encourage them to come out, because every week we tackle different types of topics. We tackle different types of things. We want them to be engaged and involved. And of course, one of the things, as far as you're looking at reporting incidents and crimes, this is one of the things as far as we always have, of course, 911. Make sure that everyone's aware of the fact that 911 is a number. Unfortunately, I know a lot of times it goes over better when we have a room crowded in the room when we have this, but a lot of times in emergency situations, when individuals have not prepared themselves for an emergency situation, you would tell the individual, okay, dial 911, and then they would look and say, well, what's the number? So that's one of the reasons why we, as a university and as a department, we developed a JU Mobile Safety app. So even in emergency situations, when a lot of things are static, a lot of things are happening, a lot of things are occurring, a lot of things are going on, we made it to the point where this app, there's a one-touch button where you can push a button and it would directly connect you to our office. It would directly connect you to 911, or if you need our local law enforcement non-emergency number. So that was one of the reasons why we did with this app. Everything on it is a 1 to 2 step where you can just push a button and it can directly connect you to with us. It can connect you with the local law enforcement. It also provides geolocation on the campus. It also have a ton of information that would tell them about safety features. It also has ways that they can communicate where they can have friend walks. So I definitely encourage them to make sure that they go download these apps. They are available, of course, if they have Apple phone or they have an Android phone. They are available in both places, and it is 100% free. There are no in-app purchases, so they can definitely get on it, download it, and it is a great resource to provide safety and security on the campus and around campus. And what I've talked about already was the blue light phones. One of the things that we incorporated with it, we have them scattered throughout the campus, but we also put them part of the JU Mobile Safety app, where that features on that JU Mobile Safety app. If they ever need or require or request any immediate assistance, they can push that button on their cell phone and it would directly ring to us. And those are one of the things. It's like I said, we always encourage them to make sure we put this in their hands so they will understand that they have all of the emergency information in hand. They have all of the phone numbers in hand. And it's just as simple as a push of a button if they need immediate information or they need immediate assistance. All right, and this is one, our Protect DNA Crime Prevention Program. This was a program that just last year, we were the first university, whereas we partnered up with Protect DNA. This is a feature that if we all are familiar, we know if we're dating ourselves, it was one of the things that Operation ID, where the old form of fashion was you would come, you would get your valuables engraved. Well, just imagine that same philosophy, but now with today's technology, this is an awesome feature that we can provide to that student, that they can use this feature where they can readily and easily identify all of their valuables, all of their things, whether it be iPad, whether it be a laptop, you name it, whatever it is, they would have a personal number, personal thing that they can write on it, and then it would immediately become in our database, and not just our database, which is why I definitely encourage them to research it, and which is, we can make sure they get the website, it'll break everything out. This will not just at Jacksonville University, but this is a national website. So even if someone was to take some of the valuables and try to sell it in 2 states over, they will immediately be returned, because this information will be in a national database. And if someone has stolen the property, as long as they had it registered with us through this program, they will immediately be notified that that property has been recovered. And that person who, of course, took it will definitely be apprehended and taken in custody, because we would easily identify that that person has taken some property that does not belong to them. So it's an awesome product, it's an awesome feature, and it is very simple, and it is one of those fun things, especially if you love technology. The way that they do it, it's a simple invisible thing that you write on it, and it has millions of little nano dots within them that we have the capability, once we've put this special light on it, it will readily identify the number that will link it back to your student. And of course, when we deal with active sale, that's one of the things, of course, I know that's always a topic that everyone wants to, kind of sort of address and look at. One of the things as far as our campus, we are always looking to partner up with our local law enforcement, and especially all with our training, and not just with our training as far as department-wise, we also want to make sure that the training went to the faculty, staff, and students as well. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the nation's best practice, which is, of course, the run, hide, fight, which is what our local law enforcement, as well as the majority of local law enforcement throughout the United States, as well as with the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI. These are the nation's best practices that we have built our policies and procedures as far as how to address them, how to make sure that the training, all of these things is what we use on a campus and as university, that we constantly always are looking at, making sure that we're going through the training process, making sure everyone is making sure they're understanding what to do in all of these types of situations. Because the thing that we always want people to understand in training is the body cannot go where the mind has not traveled. So if we have not mentally prepared ourselves to address and go through the training of these situations in an emergency situation, these are some of the things that we prep them for, because it's a lot of these things you have to mentally be prepared for. So we definitely highly encourage all of your students, when this information comes out, when we have those training sessions, we want them to come to them so they can already be prepared for them, as well as our faculty and staff and students. And as far as emergency communication, time back to all of the different ways that there ever is an emergency situation, these are the ways that we will outreach because of that text messaging system that Dr. Gover had already touched on, along with our JU Mobile Safety app, as well as we have our JU Presence on Campus, which in all situations, in emergency situations, by having JSO on campus along with our department, that minimize response time, because if they're already here on campus, that eliminates having to wait for them to come on campus. They're always around on our campus. They work with us throughout the day and nights, and as well as our Alertus. If you look at Alertus, Alertus is a system that we've used in the past. It's a good system that ties into computer takeover. So if at any point in time, if there was an emergency situation on campus, whether that student was in the classroom or even looking at a TV screen that's tied into our network, that screen will be automatically taken over, and it will alert the entire university and everything that's on our network that there is a fill in the blank type of emergency situation, and it's required, your attention is required. You must pay attention. So these are ways that a university, between the text message, between the app, as well as anything that's tied into our network, we have the ability to get everyone's attention. And again, conclude on that, of course, with our blue lights, as well as our mobile blue lights. Those are scattered throughout the campus and tied to every student who downloads that JU Mobile Safety app. And of course, hurricane preparedness. Again, as we look around, we know that we are located in the state of Florida. And of course, the state of Florida right now, we are pretty much, it's been a very busy tropic season already, but it hasn't made a lot of landfall. And we're knock on wood that we continue to make sure that it stays that way. But unfortunately, with the weather, we don't have complete control of it. But what we do have control over is how this university takes it serious. We prepare, we prep, we do everything possible. We go through all types of what-if scenarios to make sure that when your student is here, they're getting the most, like I said, when it comes to the information that we get the most up-to-date information, because we have partnered with the National Weather Service. We get direct information through the city of Jacksonville, which is a tremendous thing that our department is tied to. So all of the information that we receive is directly from the National Weather Service, as well as through the city of Jacksonville. So, and even if you're looking at this picture, if you're looking at the screen, and I always brag on it, because one thing about that you'll learn about this university, our senior vice presidents, including our presidents, everyone takes an all hands-on approach. And when there's situations where if we ever have to, as a university, have to move students around and relocate them in certain situations on campus, the university, you see everyone go into action, where you even see places in this same picture, you see our senior vice president, of course, Dr. Gover. They are actually right here on campus during the storms with your students. So they're not somewhere else off on campus, somewhere else talking about how safe the campus is. They are literally here on campus with your students, making sure that as the storm, as we get all the updates, you see everyone coming together, working together, right? That's our department, especially along with the tremendous work that the Department of Residential Life do. They do a tremendous job in keeping everyone informed, and they keep everyone in, especially when it comes to the information, they keep everyone out of harm's way. And that is what this university prides itself on, is keeping everyone informed and out of harm's way. And with that, I'm going to conclude, and I know I'm getting ready to turn it over to, of course, Jenny Boyd. She's our Director of Residential Life. But I just want to make sure that as a university and our department, we are committed to maintaining a safe, secure living and work environment. And here is that number that I want to make sure that, give it at least a few seconds to make sure you jot this number down, and make sure yourself, your students, they have it, because we are here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we work directly with the department, like I said, with Residential Life. So we are always, anything that goes on campus, we are constantly working together, helping each other out to make sure your students have an outstanding experience while they're here on our campus. And with that being said, I'm going to say thank you and turn it over to Jenny Boyd.
Thank you, Kevin. We are really lucky to have just an exceptional person in our role of Director of Campus Security. Very thankful for Kevin. We partner with him and his team extremely closely in Residential Life. So my name is Jenny. I'm the Director of Residential Life. I know I've spoken with many of you either in sessions or in email or over the phone this summer. Happy to be talking to you again. I'm gonna try to move through a lot of this quickly so that we have some time to make sure we answer questions. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of kind of the structure of Residential Life and who we have in roles. So we have one main office, and it's located in our village apartments, Village 1. It's actually one of the apartments turned into our office. And in that office is myself and also our Assistant Director of Operations. Her name is Lauren. Many of you may have had conversations with her. She takes care of all of our housing assignments and meal plans and just mostly everything. She's basically a superhero. So her and I are in this office full time, but then we have 7 professional staff members that are spread all out throughout campus. Some of those individuals are Residential Life coordinators. And so what that means is that they are a full-time professional staff member. They have graduated with degrees, they have master's degrees, and they are full-time living on this campus. We also have graduate hall directors. So we include those as part of our professional staff, but they're working part-time for us in a part-time capacity because they're also enrolled in a graduate program. Then we have community leaders, which are CLs. Those are essentially RAs to the RAs. So those are student leaders. They are serving in student leadership roles, working alongside our resident advisors. And so our RAs are student leader positions. And one thing I think I really want parents to understand and hear is that we have this team of professionals that are available, that live on campus with students. And we really ask you to partner with us and honor the fact that the RAs are also student leaders. They're also students here getting their degrees, working alongside us. And so for the most part, we encourage parents to contact our professional staff and to be in communication with our professional staff, and for allowing the RAs to be in communication with students, and for parents to be in communication with professionals. We also have desk assistants and desk managers. And so those are our students that help us man our front desks at the halls. They're not quite manned 24 hours a day, but almost. I think they're manned like 19 hours a day. So we find that real middle of the night a challenging thing for a student to do and be a successful student. So let's talk about our communities. Hopefully you are really aware of this already, but if not, that's okay. We have what I would call our traditional style residential halls, and that's Botts Hall and Williams Hall. That's where the majority of our freshmen are living. Those are bedrooms that have two students living in the room, and then the students on that wing, around 20 students, share a community bathroom. North Hall is set up in a similar way, that it is 2 students students per room sharing a community bathroom, but it's a little different in that it is upperclassmen housing, and it's also our Greek life housing. So what that means is that some of the wings are set aside specific to Greek life, and they fill either their entire wing or most of it, and then other students live with them. Oak Hall is our largest residential hall. It is suite style. That means that we have 2 students in a room and they are sharing a bathroom with the 2 students next to them. So they're connected in a suite by the bathroom being in the middle, and those 4 students are sharing that communal bathroom space. We do have some freshmen also living in Oak this year. And then lastly are our village apartments. Our village apartments are single room apartments. So there are 4 bedrooms, 1 person in each room, and there are 2 bathrooms in each apartment. So every 2 students shares a bathroom. And those are reserved for our juniors and seniors. We do have a 3-year residency requirement at Jacksonville University. And I think that that's really important for families to know if you were not already aware of it. That 3-year requirement is not based on credits. It is based on years out of high school. So it's 3 years within your college experience out of high school. We have plenty of students that it's their first year in college, but they may be classified as a junior because of all the amazing credits they have. Our residency requirement is not based on credits, it's based on those years out of high school. So as you can imagine, we really want to prepare families that village apartments are largely taken up by our seniors who elect to stay on campus, and then by a small number of juniors who have a very high credit number. We don't want families assuming that that 3rd year they automatically get into village apartments. We would love that, but we just don't have the space for it. So our 3rd year students do sometimes live in village, and sometimes they're also in North and Oak Hall. Every student that lives on campus has a meal plan. It's a requirement of living on campus. Our meal plans are broken up into what we would call our all access plans, which is the silver, gold, and platinum, and then the apartment plans, which are those 50 and 100 meals. Basically, anywhere you live outside the apartments, you have to have an all access plan. So in Botts, Williams, North Hall, and Oak, you will have an all access meal plan. Students can select that meal plan. Most all students have. You select it when you select your room because based on where you live, that's how you can have different kinds of meal plans. Students can change that meal plan up to the Friday of the first week of classes. So it's important to note that within that semester, the Friday of the first week of classes is the last date before 5 p.m. that you can change your meal plan for that semester. However, if a student has selected, maybe they chose the platinum plan and they got to November and they thought, man, I don't think I used this fully, they can absolutely change the plan for the next spring semester. Okay, let's talk about move-in. I've gone over some of this previously, but move-in is looking different this year, especially for our freshmen who we usually would welcome in a really different way. We are offering an early move-in for our immunocompromised students and families. Tomorrow, a huge email is going to go out with all the move-in details and with all the instructions to begin selecting move-in time slots and electing into this immunocompromised move-in. We are asking students and parents to partner with us and honor the intent of this immunocompromised move-in. If a whole host of families decided to elect into the immunocompromised move-in, it would negate the purpose of it. This move-in is truly for students who may have a family member going through chemotherapy, or truly they themselves or their family member are immunocompromised and need an even more de-densified option for move-in. Apart from that, students will self-select their move-in time slot within their housing portal. So what they'll do is go into that time, you're fine, it's our cleaning staff. They'll go into their housing portal, they'll select a move-in time slot. Those time slots are 1-hour time slots. That does not mean that that is the only time that the student has to move in. That 1 hour is the time that we're asking students to check in. So if your time is from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., you could arrive on campus and come up to the desk to check in at 9:05 or 9:55. The hope is that the 30 students that have that 1 hour do spread out within the 1 hour. If they all show up at 9 a.m., we'll have to ask them to wait outside or in their vehicles. We're hoping that that 5-minute check-in interaction with those students will be within the 1 hour. After the student has checked in, they have the entire day to finish moving in all of their belongings, and that's when their guests will engage with them. The guests are limited to 2 per student, and everyone will be required to wear a mask. If students or guests are outside of their residential room, their assigned space, they'll be required to wear a mask until the first date of classes. As of the first day of classes, we shouldn't have any guests in the halls because we are restricting guests in the halls through the fall semester. If you're not a JU student, then you won't be allowed to be in the halls, and all the move-ins will be completed by then, so our student guests will be gone. One thing that students will find when they move in is the welcome kit. So there will be a welcome kit with a JU mask, so educational materials, hand sanitizer, and a thermometer. But we really encourage families to bring your own thermometer and of course to have your own mask so that you can enter the building in the first place. Some things that we're doing, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Some things that we're doing to prepare the halls. We are going to have an increase in our hand sanitizing stations, so especially around our entrances and exits. We're also going to have sanitizing wipe stations in all of our common spaces, including our community restrooms. So even though we partnered with Airmark for increased cleaning, we're also asking our students to engage in that with us. So if they are in a community space and use a community space or use a community bathroom, there will be wipes available so that they can also clean up after themselves. We're making sure that our staff are prepared and ready to respond and engage with this cleaning and also respond to student concerns. We know that the students living in the halls, those are going to be the students that say, I am not feeling well and I don't know what to do, or I think that my friend down the hall may have gotten a test today. What do I need to know about that? And so we're making sure that our staff is educated and ready to respond in those situations. We have set aside space for quarantine and isolation on campus, and we have a very thorough step-by-step process that helps us all get on the same page about what we're doing to respond to positive cases on campus. I think that might be it. I was last, yes. So I will invite Dr. Gover and Kevin back into the conversation, and we'll try to answer some questions that we are seeing.
Yeah, thank you all so much. So it seems like some of the questions we were getting initially were a lot of questions about hurricane, which I know we get these every year. So can you all talk a little bit more about the kind of the hurricane procedures when we see those storms forming, kind of what goes into that process, and how do family members make sure they're staying in the loop?
Sure, I'll take that one to start, and then Jenny or Kevin, either one can jump in. We start tracking the hurricane pretty early on, and like Kevin said, we're tapped into the National Weather Service. We have a direct link to them, so we actually get weather updates at the same time as the news stations, and so we feel very well connected. Our goal in this COVID environment is to allow students 3 days of travel time in advance of landfall. And that would allow students, that should allow students ample time to transition off campus if we're doing a voluntary evacuation. And in most cases, we will encourage students to voluntarily evacuate this year. In past years, we've been able to accommodate most everyone on campus by consolidating students over into the south side of campus where our residence halls are, where we have a dining venue and easy egress and ingress into campus. But with the COVID environment and trying to make sure that we're being conscious of not putting our students at risk for COVID, we'll probably take the approach where students are encouraged to voluntarily evacuate. And the students from, I think a note came in that said, where do students from out of state evacuate to? They could go home. They could go home with a friend. It is not uncommon for us to see that other friends take other people in. And then there will also be, of course, some opportunities for them if they have, if they live in Botts, Williams, or Oak Hall, then they will be invited to stay in their residence hall because that is the safest area of campus because of the landscape of our campus, the dining, and the ability to come in and out of campus because of our access. So most people on this call who have first-year students are probably in a really good position because it's highly likely that your student is either in Botts or Williams. And so we will accommodate students. We will stay in touch with you. We use Facebook. We use Facebook Live. We use of course, our media channels, social media channels, as well as our university communications. And we'll use our text messaging system to communicate out with our students as well. And I would say the one benefit of COVID is that most of our students will already be engaged in some form of online classes. So that will allow us a little more flexibility with evacuating campus and students being able to stay connected with their professors during that time, barring any electric outage or power outages and things like that. So we do feel that hurricanes is an area where we feel pretty well prepared to serve our students because, like I said before, unfortunately, we've had a lot of experience. And I'll also say, not so that I don't scare anyone to death here, that Jacksonville, Florida, just from a landscape perspective, is in a really good place and geographically for hurricanes. And so it's rare that we get a direct hit, very rare that we get a direct hit. So it's typically that we're just getting kind of the outskirts of something that causes some inclement weather for us. Thanks.
Yeah. Kevin, can you review again for how students can sign up for the emergency text system? And is that something family members can do for well, or do we keep that just for the students?
Yes, as far as emergency, you can go into your MyJU, and as long as you have all of your information up to date, as far as emergency contacts and all your information, there's a link that would guide you right through that portal and will tell you exactly how to sign up for it. And if need be, if they need any assistance with that, we can make sure I can provide you the link and we can send that out. But yeah, once you go through the MyJU, it shows you the page, emergency communication, and how you sign up, and once you go through that process.
Thank you. And then Jenny, if this one might be coming your way, can you talk about renter's insurance and what you recommend family members and students do to make sure that they're covered under that renter's insurance?
Sure, yeah, we do recommend that students get renter's insurance for living on campus. I think that is just a good idea if you're using any space that you're leasing in any kind of way. I think it's good practice for students to do, especially as they transition from living in campus housing to moving off campus. So that is something that we encourage, but we don't necessarily require that of students and families. I will also address, if it's okay, I see some questions asking about COVID and what happens around maybe quarantine and isolation. And so I see Dave's question about the entire hall if somebody is positive in a hall with community bathrooms. So I just want to say that if we have a student on campus that tests positive, they will be moved into isolation. What happens then is that we engage in contact tracing. We have a group of individuals on campus that are certified to do contact tracing. We engage in that very quickly, and that individuals identified in that investigation, if you will, those individuals are then asked to engage in a 14-day quarantine. We do have space on campus for that quarantine. Depending on where they live, they may be able to stay where they are, but it does not necessarily mean that the entire hallway or entire wing or even the roommate of the student, it's really the outcome of the contact tracing. Tomorrow, when you receive information about move-in, we're going to be asking families to fill out, or students to fill out, an emergency preparedness form that's going to both ask some prompting questions about hurricanes and about COVID. Our hope is that that will encourage families to engage in a conversation around these things, around, you know, what have you thought about doing if your student is positive on campus, or if your student has to quarantine on campus. Those can be really challenging to do on campus. We're fully prepared to support those students with meal delivery, with contacting their professors and moving their courses online. But for a lot of our students, it's going to be easier for them to do that from home. Same in the case of a hurricane. What if we have different categories of hurricane? Have you thought through if your student is going to stay on campus, or if your student may return home or stay with a family member? So we're hoping that that emergency preparedness form going out tomorrow will also help think through some of these scenarios.
Thanks for all that great information, Jenny. Super, super helpful. I think we also had some questions asking a little bit more about Flex. So kind of, if you could break down a little bit about what Flex is and if it rolls over between semesters and how that process works.
Yeah, sure. So Flex is basically money that gets added onto your card. So if you have an all access plan that has 600 Flex dollars, that is $600 that you can use in areas of campus that accept Flex. We have several little coffee areas on campus. We have our main Starbucks location, Chick-fil-A, Waves, which is located in Oak. And then sometimes we even have food trucks come on campus that will accept Flex. So anywhere on campus that accepts Flex, you can use that amount of money. When the fall semester ends in November, our meal plan shifts. So there will not necessarily be as many places to use swipes, but you can continue to use your Flex throughout the winter break term. When the new term starts in the spring, and Christy can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm saying how it normally works. I don't know if anything has changed for this upcoming year, but typically you could use flex throughout the winter break, but in the spring, when we begin a new term and new meal plan start, you would lose any flex that you had not used. So I do think for our students, you know, I think it's a good opportunity to plan whether they're going to be here or not, because if they are here, it would be really helpful to have some more flex so that they can continue to use that through the winter break. If they're not going to be here, maybe they need less flex, or they want to plan ahead to use up their flex before they leave town so that when they return and a new term is starting, they will have a new bunch of flex starting.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And just a plug for Jenny, later today, she's a huge help and answers a lot of our questions. There is another residential life session this afternoon at 4 p.m. And that's gonna be a little bit more specific to housing. If you have questions about what the closet situation is, raising your bed up, any of those specifics, you can see her later this afternoon. I think that covers most of the questions we have today. So I want to thank all of our presenters for the great wealth of information. If anyone wants to catch this recording later, there is a link on page 2 of the family schedule that will take you to our YouTube page where we're posting all of the sessions. And so we're trying to get them up as fast as we can. And so you should hopefully see them by later this evening, and then you can always review the information and reach out to the respective departments if you do have further questions. So thank you again to our presenters, and we look forward to seeing a lot of you family members engaging in our sessions later today and throughout the rest of the week.